Yeah, it's 1 minute after, so I'll call this regular meeting of the Bethel Public Utilities Commission to order for Monday, August 17th, 2020. Please rise, join me in the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag of the United States of
America,
America,
to the
Republic to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Do we have anybody in the public on? Is it just us chickens?
Looks like it's just you guys.
Okay, all right. Then nothing in correspondence that came in late,
Right.
just the packet, okay? So first order of business then is to accept the minutes of the regular meeting of August 3rd, 2020. I'll entertain a motion.
So I'll move.
Okay, moved by Rich, seconded by Paul. Are there any comments, changes, corrections? And hearing none, I'll try your minds. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any abstentions? No, I think we were all there. Okay, that motion carries. Okay, Bob, the floor is yours for financial report.
All right, real quick. I changed the format around to conform with the budget. And the first page is a little bit different. I have revenue and expenses there. You can see the water department only had, it's not a billing month. It's not a collection month. So both departments have minimal collections. Water had 2,800, sewer had 4,100. The expenses are basically, I mean, not bulk, but 153 on the water. 59 of it is related to salaries. And then you've got another 40,000 or so for operations. And then we had some payments on the debt service for about 55. So that adds up to about the $153,000. There's nothing really in there that's that I have to look into to find out, hey, what's going on in this expense. They're pretty much all straightforward. And then what I did was after the first two pages, which is the expense and then revenue, I have the munis detail, which accumulates to the first two pages. And then you get into the sewer, which is on 7 and 8. And again, salary is the big driver there. But we have 266,000 in expenses. And again, the biggest part of it is the debt service. About 213,000 in debt service that was paid. And then minimal expenses for the operations. I mean, there's 7,400 for electricity and sewer line maintenance, 1,600, and then $500 in contracted services. So not much really to talk about with the reports for the two departments. And, you know, next month is a collection month. Well, actually, it won't be. It's not until September. So we won't see anything until the September report in October, where you're going to start to see some revenue. So it's going to be showing a loss for a couple of months, but then it'll start to catch up real quick. You know, so that's about it.
But this is typical for this time of year, right?
Well, yeah.
So our expenses are level, but the revenue, goes up and down.
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah, you collect revenues 4 times a year.
Yeah.
September, December, March, and June. So,
right.
Once we start collecting it, it's going to change the whole outlook of the report.
I have a question.
Yep, go ahead, Rich.
Bob, I'm just curious, the loans we get from the state of Connecticut, what is their percentage rate? And because I just was thinking we had such a good rate when we went out to bond a couple weeks ago.
Mhm.
Is it worthwhile still getting the loans from the state versus us going out ourselves and doing it?
The rate is 2% right now. And that's long-term, that's 20 years. So Barry is actually looking into the possibility of refinancing some of the loans that we have with the state and to, possibly save some money on it. But yeah, it's in the process. I mean, if
Okay.
it's worthwhile, considering the expenses that we would have to, bond them again, it's going to be a bond. Then we'll do it. If it doesn't pay, then we're not going to do it.
No, I understand, but we got a good
Great.
rate
Very
this
good
last
rate.
time we did.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
1.56, I think.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Just
And don't
talking out
forget,
loud.
though, Excuse
All
me,
right.
don't forget to get the state loan, to go through that process is enabling us to get the 25% grant.
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
that's
so
right.
we would,
So to refinance it, yeah, there's an expense, but that, still may be profitable to do it that way.
yeah, I mean, we have to hold on to it, I think, for a year. Or is there no, I think it's 1 year and then we can convert them over to our own. So we got to take that all into consideration.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
I have a question.
Yep, go ahead,
Um,
Paul.
My question is, I just noticed that underwater, it's only underwater here, that well and reservoir maintenance, we have a budget of $20,000 and we used up actually $5,300. That's better than a fourth of that for just 1 month. Did we, my question is, did we under budget or did we have some extraordinary expenses for wells and reservoir maintenance?
Tom, can I speak on that?
Yeah, go ahead, because off the top of my head, I'm trying to think of what that bill might be.
I think that was the two recorders at the wells. We put in 2 new recorders in the wells. They were 20 years old and they were starting to fail. That
Okay,
was done by Paul Santoro. And that came in after the 1st of July. So I think that's what that was.
okay. Does that also account for the overtime? I noticed it's in comparing it to Shoreside, we had sort of a extra bump up there on overtime here.
For the wells?
Yeah, no, for water in general, it says overtime.
Yeah, there's 2,500. First of all, I'll check into that, the 5,300 on the recorders and the wells. And then the way I get the information from Brad out of Munis on the salaries, broke it down between the different categories, director, supervisor, and then the operators. I have to check. There was a category in there of overtime. I'll check to see what we have for
All right.
the overtime.
All right, thank you.
Yep. I'll send a separate email to everybody and don't respond to it because then it's a meeting.
All right. Okay, any other questions?
No,
All right, moving on to invoices. So I'll get the conversation going here. I'll put a motion on the floor that we approve invoices dated Monday, August 17th, 2020. 9 items in total in the amount of $414,654.41. There a second?
Second.
Okay, Rich seconded it. So Kathy had put all the backup in there, so let you take a look at that. Any questions on those?
Nope.
All right. All right, unless anybody has any questions for Tom or Bob, I will try your minds. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that motion carries. We have nothing on new business tonight, right, Tom?
Correct.
All right, director's report, floor is yours.
Director's report, I didn't really have much. I'll go into my my capital project summary. The one thing I just wanted to acknowledge, with the past week and a half or so with the storm, I just wanted to acknowledge the effort by Kelly and the utility maintainers in terms of just keeping up with everything. We had fueling generators, we had monitoring different facilities. We had some generators that ran for the full week. So I just wanted to give kudos to the guys. They kept everything running without any problems.
Yeah,
Despite having no power themselves and having to deal with roads with trees down and so on. So,
you know, we before we started, before you came on, Tom, I was just talking to Kathy, and told her that I am about halfway done with my letter to Pura. And I'm just starting the chapter in this letter. It's going to be fairly long, about how long we pushed trying to escalate so that our critical facilities like the wells and the pump stations would still have power. And I don't think that those really got power for 6 days, did they?
It varies, Matt. What I'll have to do tomorrow is give you, Kelly provided me a spreadsheet of all the generators and when the different sites lost power and when they got it back. We were actually lucky. The wells stayed on normal power, I think, for the majority of the time. They might have been out for just a few hours, but there were several stations that were on utility power, generator power through probably Tuesday, was it, Kel? Was it the last?
Actually, Thursday morning. Thursday
so
morning
over-
was the last one. That was Walnut.
Okay, over a
And that
week,
didn't-
so.
Yeah,
You mean 9 days after
correct.
that
Yes.
Thursday? Wow. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to need that recap because I'm putting chapter and verse in this. There's a Pura docket assigned to this investigation, so I'm going to load it up.
Yeah, I had some thoughts for you too, which I didn't get to yet. I'll make sure I get you some information tomorrow.
Okay. Very good.
Okay.
All right.
Uh,
Thank
le-
go
Matt,
ahead,
let me
Bob.
just tell you and Bob Kozlowski, did you guys lose internet service? Did you lose internet service at all in
I
town
don't think
hall?
so. No,
No,
no.
Because I didn't have it, and I got my bill today, and I called up, and it took an act of God, but I got a credit for 8 days.
wow.
You know,
Good.
so I just want to say, you can, if there are credits available, use it. You have to stand on on the company a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
You
Well,
know, Paul, as you drove around, you saw these little mini generators chained up at the base of utility poles. So if power was out, I think it took them a few days, but then I think the the internet providers and the cable company was basically hooking up, temporary generators to keep part of their system running. So I can understand why you were out, because if they had no power and they didn't get up to you, then you didn't have
Yeah.
internet.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a couple of phone calls from people who complained that the generators were running at night. And seeing as how there was no air conditioning, no power, their windows were open and they were listening to the generators. So a lot of unhappy folks. All right. Well, Tom, you want to just keep going right into the capital project status?
Sure thing. Sure thing. First project, the Chestnut Tank. If you've not been up there, the tank is substantially complete right now as a water tank. Remaining work is the electrical, the instrumentation, some additional site work, and then piping, drainage, water mains. Water main work, I think, is expected to get going next week. And their latest schedule is showing October 28th as their proposed end date. So
Oh,
we're getting
wow.
close. I think we're going to have water to provide into our system here, if not late September, early October.
Are they doing preparing landscaping?
Yeah, there's going to be some, obviously topsoil seeding and some trees. A bunch of trees have to get planted.
Okay.
I actually noted a couple of trees that are dead, and I want to approach them in terms of maybe having their tree guy take those down, while they're on site, while it's still their contract. I mean, I'll have to get a price from them, but there's some trees that probably should come down. Not many, maybe 2 or 3.
All right.
All right.
2019 water mains being done by Earth Movers. They still have, their next step is to get going on services on Mansfield Street. And then the last street is going to be Oakland Heights, where they'll have the water main and services there. As we get close to the end, I think there's going to be some money left over. I don't think they're going to use the full amount of what we had authorized. I'll come back to the commission at some point just to indicate how much more we have left that we may want to spend to have them continue to extend Highview Terrace, further down the hill towards Bonnet Drive extension. but
Okay.
I can't make that call yet until they kind of get further along on Oakland Heights.
All right. Sounds good.
On the Bergstrom well field, Wright Pierce last week got the pilot study from the vendor. So they are reviewing that at this point, and they anticipate getting us our draft preliminary engineering report with various alternatives identified by early September. So give or take, 3-4 weeks, we should be getting something from them for us to basically start making a decision on, getting going on a final design. As far as generators, the vendors have ordered their generators, and now we just wait for that material to come in and for them to get it scheduled. And lastly, the next set of water mains we're going to do, we authorized Wright Pierce last week, and I contacted them, so they'll get going on starting that design here coming up. Other than that, that's where we stand.
Have they, Tom, have they done any patchwork on Grassy Plain Terrace and up over there where they've already done the services?
Patching, they've patched a piece of Highview Terrace where it comes off a Grassy Plain, because that was kind of a hillside, and I think the drainage was coming down along the edge of the road there. So they have that piece of it paved with temporary paving, and they probably have the crossing that they did over on Mansfield paved. Kel, I'm not sure if they've done any other paving at this point.
They did fill in the areas that we were in question before the storm came, that we talked about at the last meeting. I mean, it's just gravel, but it's there's no ruts or anything like that. It's held up pretty well.
Yeah, Rich, I think they're going to stage all of their, paving, in one shot.
All right.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Tom, did you get the proposals for the extra hydrant and the cross connection, emergency cross connection from the contract?
Yeah, Kelly, I think spoke with them. I don't know that we've gotten something formal from them. They're still about maybe half a week to a week away. I know we authorized that extra work for not to exceed 15,000.
Right.
Kel, I'm not sure if you got a number from them yet. Well, if not, we'll have to, press them on that.
I'll have a number within the week, but just for parts, I got a number of 4,200 for doing that, and then it'll be a cost of doing the wet tap, which I'm going to guess is about 2,500. So we're going to be under the 15, but still, I want to get something, even if it's just an email from the contractor with a number for doing the extra work.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
All right.
Tom, I got another question on that. Where we're doing that tie-in to the old reservoir line, we're putting a gate valve on the reservoir side. Are we putting a blow-off or a hydrant on the reservoir side?
Yes. Yes.
There's a 4-inch blow off.
Yes, Rich, there's going to be a 4-inch blow off there. So we'll be able to keep a valve closed so that we could basically drain down the tank line and dispel any of that stagnant water before we put it into service.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, good. Any other questions for Tom?
No.
And if not, Kelly, you're up.
Okay, on Thursday, or it's going to start Wednesday into Thursday, there, Kovac is going to be with McVac to clean out the wet wells at Paul Street. So that's on point. Last Thursday, they started cleaning all the wet wells starting out at Berkshire Station. They got the majority of all the Stony Hill stations done, and they're working back into town, but they're going to get every single wet well, which I'm pretty sure we're talking 10 plus Paul Street. So those will be cleaned right out. Pembroke has been working along with our guys to suck it out and get the grease and the solids out of there. Let's see. Well, I'll get into a little bit about the storm and the generators. Just to let you know, on the sewer side, we have 11 stations, 4 of which were not jeopardized with power. They were all on generator. I will say one thing. Tom made a comment, or made a connection with someone from Eversource, where they did get Paul Street back on by the following day at 11 o'clock, and that was real big, because we actually had issues at Wall Street about 12:30 Wednesday, Tuesday night into Wednesday. The generator overheated, so we had no power. Luckily, it was a low flow time. The guys hooked up. They went up in the dark up to Eureka. They took the standby generator from there, brought it down to Wall Street, hooked it up, and they were able to get one pump going off that generator. So we were very fortunate with that. Also, just to put this out there, one of the new guy in the transfer station, Andrew, he's very good with generators. And he came out, of course we paid him, but he came out in the middle of the night. He made the connections to the Paul Street generator inside the transfer case, and he had us up and running within an hour. And we took advantage of him 3 or 4 times during the storm because he's very knowledgeable about generators. Like I said, there's 11 sites on the sewer side. There's 8 sites on the water side. And of that, 1, 2, 3, 4, we had 6 generators that were not needed. Everything else ran for as little as 3 hours up to 210 hours. It was kind of screwy the way it was happening up in Stony Hill because they had that big tree go down in front of the firehouse. Everyone at Stony Hill had power but our station. And that was because there's some sort of, I don't understand the technology, but there's a transfer switch on the pole right at the station. And when that got knocked out, that wiped out our pump station. And that could have been on Monday if it wasn't for that issue. But it went as far as Wednesday night when they finally got it repaired. When all this was going on, we had an issue at Walnut where the generator was running, but it wasn't producing, and the transfer switch locked up. Again, I brought Andrew out there. He looked into it, and he found what his thing was. There was something going on with the pot on the pole. It was something that they crossed a wire, or they had to throw a switch or whatever. But that's why that station went until Thursday morning at 9 o'clock, because there was no automatic transfer. So of our issues with all the generators we had, the only ones were Paul Street for overheating, and I've got mechanics working on that to see what the issue is. That generator's a 350 kW. It's got a cap motor on it, and I'm trying to get HO Penn to come down and look at it. And the other thing is, like I was just saying, the transfer switch on Walnut. The guys basically worked around the clock for a week and a half, keeping everything fueled between one of the maintenance guys and our guys. They took care of the town generators, which all the town generators were on with the exception of the municipal center. We've tracked all the hours, all the overtime, any particulars that go with the storm. And we're going to present it to Tom, to Tommy Galliford, and he's going to submit it through FEMA to try to get reimbursed. So really, all in all, it was definitely a crazy 2 weeks, but the guys did a real good job.
Well,
And
yes, thank you.
last but not least, we didn't do any hydrants. So we're still, but other than that, the guys did a real good job. And it was definitely a group effort. If you were at the highway department, you would see everyone working together in harmony to get all this work done.
Well, please let your crew know how much we appreciate all their hard work on that, because with everything else that was going on, having sewage backup is not something that we wanted to deal with. So you and your team both did a great job. We really appreciate it.
I thank you.
Yeah,
All
Kelly,
right.
I forgot, you mentioned Eversource did come out the next day at Paul Street. So Matt, I hate to mention it, but they actually did do at least that right for us.
Well, but I think we have to, you had made a separate phone call. You didn't get this done through the normal channel, right?
No. I checked the circuit out. I saw where a couple of phases had crossed and they were up in a tree. They weren't touching anymore, but I could kind of guess that they touched while the wind was blowing. And I just basically explained all of that to them. And I said, hey, if you come out and take a look, I think if you get those 2 phases, straightened out, I think you can throw our cutouts back in and get us power. And they did. And by noon on Wednesday, they actually had it back on. So
Yeah, well, see, that's the way it should work. And my beef is that the liaison system was completely dysfunctional. You know, you had this poor young woman who had no background in disaster management, emergency management at all. She's an energy efficiency specialist. She had 3 towns to deal with. We're throwing stuff at her, and she had no access to dispatch, and she had no access to the decision makers. So it's not her fault, but it's the company's fault the way they were structured. So you were able to make a phone call and get around that, and so was Steve Pugner by
but now
not
that I-
working through the system.
But I did call her, or I called our other person. I forget if I got through to Samantha or Jillian. I don't think we had Jillian yet.
I
So
think
it
it was
must have been-
Samantha at the time.
It must have been Samantha or Tracy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they at least then got through to whoever they needed to get through to.
Well, Tracy's senior, so
Okay.
yeah, she might have been able to pull some strings, but then we didn't have access to her for quite a while.
Right. But that's where they broke down. Communication totally is where they broke
Yeah.
down.
All right. Okay. Kelly? Anything else?
No, sir.
All right. Well, it's kind of a red letter day. That concludes our agenda, and I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Wait a minute. Marty's got his finger up.
Yeah, just a couple things. First off, I apologize for getting on late. Were the minutes approved?
Yes.
Were there any changes to the minutes?
No.
Because my question was, when I looked at the minutes, and I couldn't find my notes from the last meeting, where I was anyway, because it says that the meeting, it was almost a 2-hour meeting?
It's probably supposed to be 4:54.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to make
Typo.
it was a 4:54. That's all right, just a simple.
Oh. All right.
Okay, the other thing I wanted to say, this is for Rich. I spoke to Bob this week and I looked a few things up, and that's that property at 29 Benedict Road that the Mike and Bruno purchased. I checked the assessment, there's still an outstanding assessment of $16,065.52. I discussed it a little bit with Bob. We definitely have the caveat that it's subjected to that in the future could be redone again with an assessment. I contacted their attorney to let them know that there's a possibility that may happen. All right. I think though, a couple of things I wanted to bring up at this meeting for future meetings or maybe the next meeting. Number one, I think the commission has to decide how you want to do this assessment, because there's a couple things you got to think about. Number one, we can't pocket the money. It's got to go to be used to pay down the bond. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and that means there's, what's going to happen and whatever you decide to do, the rest of all the people that are still paying on the bond, they're going to get some kind of benefit, whether it's $2 a person or $4, I don't know.
Mhm.
A group of people that probably might have paid their bonds off, they're not going to get that advantage. And the other problem is, I don't think you should do anything until and when planning and zoning approves it, so we know how many lots we're dealing with. So that leaves us some time. But I think, and the last thing I wanted to say is, to try to calculate it the way it was done before is going to be difficult. And I think one of the reasons for that is they're paying to do this stuff. They're going to put their own lines in. They're going to put the stubs in. They're doing everything. So, if we try to do it based on what was done before, it's a little bit different than what they're doing now. They're not using the money to do this. They're paying for it themselves. So I think that somehow the commission's going to have to take that into consideration when they decide how they want to do this. And that's all I wanted to say.
Okay.
No, that's a good point, Marty, that, they're installing all the lines, so,
Right.
good point.
All right.
Okay.
Well, so
Thank
we'll have
you.
some exciting meetings coming up. Pete?
Yeah, right.
Oh, hey, Pete, you gotta unmute Pete.
How's that, right?
There you go. Yep, we can hear you.
I have a question. Draper came in reference to these townhouses as rental units. we have to look into this because when you have a townhouse, it's 2-bedroom, it's vertical. It can be turned into a condo at a future date. It's something that you have to look at. If you treat it as a strictly residential or an apartment, how are they going to convert it at a later date? It's something we have to look at because it's done by ownership. Is that right, Marty?
Yes.
That's what happens. If he puts that in as a rental unit and we don't make these lines come out, then later on, by ownership, he turns it over to a condo. We have nothing to go on. It's something that we have to look at
Mhm.
in the regulation,
All right. Yeah, Tom and I will take a look at that.
okay?
Put it on a future agenda.
Yeah, because I just want to let you know that because it could be turned right around. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't want any more of those.
Oh, all right.
All right, anything else, guys?
No.
All right. Hearing nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mhm.
All right,
Second.
Paul, and Pete and Rich. So we have a motion on the floor. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good night.
You guys later.
Thanks, everybody.
Aye.
Good night.
Same time, same channel.